like to introduce, he's our guest speaker today. I'm not used to doing this, so I got to give him a break. Art's a member of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 426, and he's going to give us a little background on the history of the Legion. Art was born in Old Town and grew up in Toronto, and he came to Newmarket in 1954. When was Hurricane Hazel? I knew it, yeah. It came at the same time as Hurricane Hazel. He joined the Legion in 1956, which means he's been a member for 4 years. He was president of the Legion for 2 years, and now he's the coffee chairman. And I'd like to welcome you. Thanks for coming. And don't forget, I want you to drink all that coffee and eat all those cookies before you go home, because I know I'd have to.
Always a pleasant song to hear. I got called up here a little faster than I anticipated, so I'm going to ask all of you to meditate to the same God that Jackie meditates with. Hope that I'm going to put on a good show for you while I go to the back and bring out some of the papers that I'm going to need. It'll only be a moment. I'm telling a story of some sort, so I figure I'm here. Why should I change? Being as we heard about Jackie's God, did you ever hear the story about the priest, the minister, and the poor little Newfie that all landed up in heaven at the same time? St. Peter shows up and he said, "Oh, something wrong, 3 of you?" And they said, "Yes." He said, "What are you expecting?" They said, "To get into heaven." Well, he said, "We only got room for 1. 2 of you can't get in." Well, they said, "What are we going to do?" Well, he said, "I'll tell you what we're going to do." He said, "I'm going to ask you a question. And whoever answers the question correctly first gets into heaven." They said, "Fine." He said, "The question is, what is God's first name?" Now, if you ever saw a stunned silence amongst 3 people, you saw it then. After a while, the priest, he said, "You know, sir," he said, "I have read every version of the Bible that's been printed, and I'm here to tell you that God does not have a first name." The minister said, "You know," he said, "I agree with my learned brother." He said, "God does not have a first name." Turned to the Newfie and said, "What do you think?" "Oh," he said, "God has a first name all right." He said, "And I know what it is." "You know God's first name?" "I do." "What is it?" "Andy." "What's his name?" "Andy." "You think God's first name is Andy?" He said, "Yeah." "What made you think that?" "Well," he said, "every Sunday," he said, "I go to church regularly. He said, every Sunday," he said, "we sing about it. It's in the hymn. It's right there in the words. It's in the hymn." He said, "What hymn is that?" He said, "Andy walks with me, Andy talks with me." Now, the reason I'm here is to talk about the Legion and Branch 426 of the Royal Canadian Legion in Newmarket. A brief history of the Legion. The Royal Canadian Legion, as it is known today, came into being at the Unity Conference held in Winnipeg in November of 1925. At that time, it was named the Canadian Legion of the British Empire Service League. In 1959, the British Empire Service League was dropped from the name, and in 1961, the Canadian Legion's Act of Incorporation was amended to make official the change of the name into the Royal Canadian Legion. The word royal was conferred by Her Majesty the Queen in recognition of the Legion's 35 years of dedicated service. Prior to 1925, there were 15 veterans organizations in Canada, with the largest being the Great War Veterans Association, and the oldest being the Army and Navy Veterans of Canada. Most of these groups were sincere in their motives, but there was no united voice or united effort on behalf of the veterans. One powerful, unified group seemed to be the answer. To one man must go the credit for bringing such a group into being. He was Field Marshal Earl Haig, who as Grand President of the British Legion visited Canada in June of 1925 at the invitation of the Great War Veterans Association. His visit coincided exactly with their convention. Speaking before 3,000 ex-servicemen, Haig made a stirring appeal for unity, an appeal that was heard throughout the country and resulted into the setting up of the Unity Conference and later the formation of the Canadian Legion. At this National Unity Conference, 13 of the existing veterans groups, led by the Great War Veterans Association, agreed to unite as one group. The exceptions were the Army and Navy Veterans of Canada and the Amputation Association, who are still independent today. At this conference, the veterans drew up a constitution, agreed on a name, and set the preliminaries for welding existing organizations into one strong body. Saskatchewan was the first province to hold a provincial unity convention. This was held in February of 1926, at which time the Saskatchewan Provincial Council was formed. A month later, Manitoba followed Saskatchewan. A month later, British Columbia, Quebec, Nova Scotia organized. In June, Ontario, Alberta, Prince Edward Island, and New Brunswick organized their councils. The Newfoundland and Labrador Command joined the Canadian Legion when Newfoundland became Canada's 10th province in 1949. There are also 3 commands in the United States: Eastern, Central, and Western. There are a number of independent branches in the United States and also in West Germany. By July the 1st, 1926, the chain of provincial councils had been completed and plans were made for a national convention to be held in January. 135,000 with 78,000 fraternal affiliates. Included in this figure are 1,500 members in the United States and Germany. Ladies' auxiliary membership is 81,000, giving a total of nearly 600,000 in 1,720 branches, 28 in the United States and 3 in Germany. The Legion has come a long way since those pioneer days of 1925 and 26. Over the years, it has established itself as a vigorous, effective voice in Parliament. It has been instrumental in bringing about important legislation, such as the passing of the War Veterans Allowance Act in 1930, which brought financial aid to a large number of burned-out pensioners. The founding of the Hindman Commission on Unemployment, the Corps of Commissionaires, and the Veteran Guard of Canada was also responsible for bringing about other changes, such as the many benefits known as the Veterans Charter, familiar to all World War II veterans. In 1971, the Woods Report, which brought about extensive changes in Canada's Pension Act. The Legion also helped set up the Department of Veterans Affairs. The Legion is the official voice of veterans in Canada and is a force in deciding any change in veterans legislation. During World War II, the Canadian Legion War Services was set up to look after the comfort, entertainment, and recreation of the troops. It also set up an education service, which provided classes, correspondence courses, etc. This was one of the most ambitious and successful tasks ever undertaken by the Legion. Over 200,000 service personnel took advantage of this and enrolled in various classes, and 8,000 university courses were provided. Thousands of books were placed in libraries and rest centers. Through the help of the Red Cross, the Legion was able to send 860,000 pamphlets and books, as well as 60,000 textbooks to Canadian prisoners of war. Today, the Legion continues to be involved in providing assistance to veterans, ex-service persons, and dependents. However, during the past 3 decades, it has become involved in the field of community service. Each year, branches throughout the country spend millions on youth and senior citizens programs, as well as looking after the care and comfort of the disabled, the sick, aged, and the needy. In 1994, the Legion put $177 million into the communities in which it exists in Canada. Seniors programs, we spent $9.5 million. Youth programs, $300,000. Charities, $25 million. Veteran support, $10 million. The help they paid in their own branches was $85 million, and they paid municipal taxes amounting to $25 million. They also, in 1994, spent $1.25 million on scholarships and bursaries for kids going to school. The Legion is non-partisan, non-sectarian, and is not affiliated with any political party or group. In order to satisfactorily act as an advocate on behalf of veterans and ex-service persons, it must be able to negotiate with whatever government is in power on an impartial basis. The goal of the Legion, service to comrades, community, and nation, is practiced today as it has been since 1925. In recent years, the base of membership has been broadened to accept spouses, sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters, widows or widowers, and spouses of associate members. This has been done for the purpose of permitting the good works of the Legion to be carried on and thereby not deny the broad assistance to communities that is now provided. The associate members are expected to maintain the Legion tradition and programs when the veterans group is no longer able to do so. Now to Newmarket. Shortly after World War II was over, an idea was born to a few far-sighted men of this town. The concept, the Newmarket branch of the Legion. It first took root in the early spring of 1946. At that time, 3 veterans, Howard Brown, Bill Lepard, and Bill Denny, conceived the idea and agreed the time was right for the formation of a branch in Newmarket. They in turn recruited 3 other veterans, Jim Foran, Hunt Taylor, and Dr. Gordon Koch. These 6 men became the founding committee of what was to become the Newmarket branch of the Canadian Legion. Meetings were originally held at the home of Howard Brown on Davis Drive, and then eventually, as the club grew, the meetings were held in the old dugout of the town hall on Botsford Street. Jackie, could you get me something to lubricate my throat, please?
Water or lemonade?
Water would be fine. Donations were solicited from other veterans and interested parties to pay for stationery, stamps, and etc. In June of 1946, a meeting was held in the town hall, just about where we're standing. Comrade Bert Phelps, zone commander, presided while the first executive was duly elected. The following were President Ken Stiver, First Vice Howard Brown, Second Vice Hunt Taylor, Secretary-Treasurer Bill Lepard, and 6 executive members, Dr. Gordon Koch, Gordon Oof, Aubrey Sides, Bill Denny, Grant Delane, and Ernie McCaffrey. At the same meeting, a resolution was passed whereby the executive committee was directed to make application to Dominion Command for the granting of a charter. The charter was granted and dated 50 years ago today, September the 18th, 1946. Dues for that year were $3 per member, and a large number were initiated in the inaugural year. The town council permitted the branch the use of the officers' mess of the military camp, which was here in what is now the fairgrounds, as a meeting place, and through the efforts of President Ken Stiver, the former mess was purchased for the sum of $1. The first woman member of our branch was Phyllis Brown, who later became the first president of the Ladies Auxiliary. Legion colors were presented to the president by the town council on March the 10th, 1947. It is interesting to note that in July 1947, membership dues were increased to $4 per annum, and you could pay it quarterly, half-yearly, or all at once if you were rich. Some of the more interesting highlights of the early years were the formation of a blood donors clinic and the organization of volunteers for that clinic by the late Dr. Gordon Koch in 1948. This was later undertaken and run by Our Ladies Auxiliary. November the 11th, 1948 was declared a public holiday. Aurora had done it the year previously. Unfortunately, the stores closed, but the factories did not, which put a bit of a damper on the parade. Under the leadership of Milt Westlake, the old officers' mess was moved to its present site, and with the help of many, became the first Legion Hall on September the 2nd, 1954. The Newmarket Branch 426 Legion Hall was officially opened. 1957 saw the town marking its centennial of incorporation. By this time, the Legion had become a recognized and influential driving force within the community. Branch 426 played an active role in assisting the year-long celebration. In one of the summer weekends, it took 5 bars, including a 6-foot tank filled with ice and water, to accommodate a thirsty crowd. The Legion sold 100 cases of beer that day, and we were a dry branch. We weren't allowed to sell beer. 1959 brought an increase in membership, and the need of a larger hall was envisioned. Again, under the leadership of Milt Wesley, Steve Ogradnik, Sam Breimer, Henry Van Zandt, Don Cutting, Warren Tennant, Roy Smalley, Carm Shire, Ivan Ruddock, Roy Stickwood, Herb Glanfield, George Smart, and I'm sure I missed 25 more. Many of them worked all volunteer labor, and an addition was begun in 1960, and the official opening took place on Saturday, September the 15th, 1962. A special edition of the Era and Express was printed. With a picture of everybody recognized your old John. That was a full publication by the Era, nothing in it except Legion news, in September 15th, 1962. The opening was a gala event with the Ladies Auxiliary catering to 400 guests. Roy Smalley was president, and Clarence Wood of Dominion Command was the guest speaker. It was then that the branch was officially named the Milton Wesley Branch 426 of the Royal Canadian Legion. The new hall was named the Harold Eaton Hall after the late Harold Eaton, a member of Branch 426, and who went on to become provincial commander. At the October meeting of 1962, Roy Smalley was granted permission to form a Legion pipe band. Not as good as Labatt's, very nice. Unfortunately, the band broke away from the Legion, but on the 31st of January 1984, Bert Lewis, Ted Abel, Jim Turnowden, and Bob Dunsmore resurrected the pipe band, reconstituted by the old band members. The pipe band Robbie Burns Nights, were known far and wide. That same year, Byron Burbridge, Chief of Police of the town of Newmarket, was made an honorary life member of the Royal Canadian Legion, the first ever in Ontario. This was a well-deserved award in recognition for the many years of service to the Legion during the long period of drought which existed in Newmarket. I've got to tell you a story about Byron. He was the chief of police. The law said we couldn't sell beer. Byron said, "You don't get me in trouble, I won't get you in trouble. You sell beer, don't cause a commotion, we'll look the other way." It was very much like the young lady that went to see her dentist. She's sitting down in the chair, tilts it back, he looks at her and he said, "Well," she said, "Well, hell, we're not going to hurt each other, are we?" It was a wonderful arrangement. 1963 was a year of misfortune, as Byron could no longer run the show, and the branch was ordered to close its bar. A long, hard struggle ensued with the hope of obtaining a proper license. The committee of Jim Otten, Alex Hands, and Russ Shipley, after many trips and presentation to the LCBO, which was then run by the notorious Judge Robb. If you don't know about Judge Robb, ask me after, I'll tell you about Judge Robb. And with the help of the late Lex McKenzie, we were granted a license to legally sell beer. The bar was legally opened late September 1963. The Ladies Auxiliary played no small part in the survival of the branch over that long, hot summer. One of the highlights of the dry spell was the late Bill Elder. He made himself sergeant at arms all the time. He just took over. And one night he was on the door making sure that nobody get in but members. And this rather large gentleman came in wearing a nice suit and tie. And Bill says to him, "And got to see your membership card, sir." The guy reaches for a membership card, and Bill says, "You know," he said, "we got to be careful who we let in. We're bootlegging." And Byron says, "That's okay, I know." In 1964, a committee was formed to provide awards and scholarships to the students of the Newmarket High School and Huron Heights Secondary School. We gave a $50 bursary at that time. This year, we're giving away $2,400 for the same purpose. 1967 was Centennial Year, and as a participant in the Dominion Command celebrations and national enthusiasm which gripped the country that year, a most needy addition was added to the upstairs hall, which was named the Centennial Hall. Some fellow named Art Westlake was president at that particular time. 1980 was the centennial year for the town of Newmarket. The pipe band hosted a championship caliber Highland Games at the fairgrounds, which was a huge success. 1985 was the year that a big change was made in the Centennial Hall under the supervision of President Ed Benison, Woody Graves, and Ivan Ruddock. The cocktail lounge was created to serve not only members and their guests, but the town as well. In the 50 years the branch has existed, they have awarded the Meritorious Service Medal, which is the highest honor possible to receive from the Legion, only 8 times. It has been given to Russ Shipley, Cease Jarvis, Jim Handley, Milt Wesley, Roy Smalley, Ivan Ruddock, Art Westlake, and Clay Stones. It's very nice. Our Service Bureau officer holds down a very important post in the Legion. It is his responsibility to see that any veteran, or his family, are getting proper recognition and compensation from the Department of Veterans Affairs. Anyone who needs help has only to contact the service officer at the branch, who will listen to his or her story, give some advice, and arrange a meeting with a representative of the Department of Veterans Affairs. As many meetings as necessary will be held until all parties are satisfied that the problems are solved to the limits of the law. If you want $500 and all they give is $400, and that's the limit. Our present Service Bureau officer is George Fildy, who took over from Al Ersling, who took over from Kitchener-Jones, who took over from Barry Keeley, and Barry Keeley, I think he was born with it, wasn't he, Don? As well as pensions, there are other benefits that George can help needy veterans get. There's war veterans allowances, and of course the pensions, survivors' pensions, Veterans Independence Plan, special treatment benefits, long-term care. Contact George. He will give you all the assistance possible and find out if you are eligible. Sports have always been a part of our Legion, and they fall into 2 categories. Category 1 is limited to members only and is normally considered a social activity, but it's very competitive. Category 2 is Legion-sponsored sports, normally for young people outside of the Legion. The main areas covered are soccer, baseball, softball, and hockey. The Legion has sponsored Pee Wee Baseball in Newmarket and the Ontario Baseball Association since 1960. Originally, we supplied the manager as well as the finances. Some of the managers were Frank Hollingsworth, Bob Early, Art Westlake, John Rowland, and my son John Westlake and Alex Grant. We now finance the Pee Wee team only. This Legion team has won many District E championships, and in 1972 and 1974, they won the Legion Provincial Championship. In hockey, the Legion sponsored and originally supplied the manager for the Newmarket Midgets, known as the Warriors. In the 59-60 hockey season, they were the Ontario Midget Hockey Association Midget Champions. We presently finance hockey only. Some of the early Legion managers were Normie Legg, Miles McGuinness, and Pete Dillon. One of the hockey highlights was in 1967, when, as a centennial project, the Legion financed and became a partner with the Newmarket Minor Hockey Association in the annual B, or House League, hockey tournament, held during the spring school break. It has always been, and still is, a huge success. From 1955 to 1960, the Legion sponsored lacrosse in town. Category 1 sports for the members only covers euchre, cribbage, darts, shuffleboard, snooker, bowling, golf, curling, and at one time, softball. In 1954, Branch 426 won the Intermediate B Provincial Legion Championship. Our dart teams have long been a power in the Legion. In 1966 and again in 1968, with Captain Bill Addy leading them, we won the Ontario title. In 56 and 57, Newmarket Legion won the Legion Provincial Snooker Championship. Our cribbage team won the provincial championship in 1960. Nobby Clark was the captain. Remember that one, Donald?
Yeah, I do.
We are very active and competitive in the other sports mentioned, but up till now we've not been able to crack the top spot. In years gone by, the Legion had great impact in the town of Newmarket. In the 1950s and 60s, we did not have the organized recreation commission that we have now. It was a group of volunteers serving under town council. 4 different presidents of Branch 426 were chairman of the recreation commission, who looked after the parks, swimming pools, the arena, and minor sports. Those presidents were Jim Handley, Roy Smalley, Herbie Lyons, and yours truly. Frank Hollingsworth, another president of the branch, was summer director of sports for many years before the town hired its first recreation director, Mr. Donald Pecor, in 1968. When the Santa Claus Parade first started in Newmarket, it was organized by a group of service clubs in town. The Legion was the focal point. As the years went by and the town and parade grew, the service clubs gave the running of the parade over to the town. Herbie Lyons, a Legion past president, remained as parade marshal until 1993, and Basher Groves, a Legion member, dressed as Santa Claus for 25 years. In September 1947, the Newmarket Branch Canadian Legion Ladies Auxiliary was formed, with Comrade Phyllis Brown as president and holding most of the meetings in the members' homes. On April 26, 1948, a charter was presented by President Hunt Taylor of the Legion. In the beginning, the ladies held euchre parties to raise money to aid and support the Legion with welfare work for ex-servicemen and their families. The ladies sold boxes of Christmas cards and packed candies at Halloween, and they helped the men with the Christmas parties. In 1951, they began having strawberry festivals on the lawn, which was much larger at that time. Along with these festivals, they held euchres and bake sales and raised approximately $500 for the branch to help with the moving of the building in 1953 to its present location. While the men worked in this event every weekend, the ladies cooked hot meals all day in Betty Gordon's kitchen across the road. From a tiny kitchen in the Legion, the ladies started having turkey dinners. From this, they began catering on a small scale, which grew until they were catering to as many as 450 at a time. In 1984, they stopped catering. It was just getting too difficult to get help. Correct? Over the years, they catered to the Hunt Club at the high school, as our Legion Hall was not large enough. They sold candies for many years for Betty Gordon's School of Dance Recital. They worked at the arena when the Legion ran the concession booth. The branch started a blunt owners clinic with a man and a lady going around door to door trying to get volunteers. After the first year, the branch gave this project to the ladies and ran the blood clinic until 1982. The Ontario Provincial Legion project for bursaries, holding dances and draws to raise money for the bursaries, which are given out to students who warrant them. In 1984, the name was changed again to charitable funds with a bursary section. This is an ongoing project. The ladies have donated money for such thing as instrument to the Legion pipe band, sponsored a girls softball team, and helped send boys and girls from the Boy Scouts and Girl Guides to jamborees overseas. They've also turned over many thousands of dollars just for the branch. From 1960 to 1984, the ladies held Christmas dinner for the students of Fairmead School for the mentally handicapped. They also took hospital carts around twice a month to the patients at York County Hospital from 1957 to 1987. The ladies have participated in many sports, social sports within the Legion, such as bowling, cribbage, dart, and euchre over the years. At the zone level, they have won many titles, which entitles you to go on to district, and if you win a district, you're entitled to go on to provincial. They won the very first provincial cribbage tournament held, which was in 1978. In 1985, they had a team win at zone, win again at district, and win again at provincial. The first Zone E2 church parade was held in Newmarket in 1976 and was hosted by the ladies of our branch. This will be the third year that they adopt a needy family at Christmas time and supply all that is needed for Christmas, food, presents, and the tree. Although they don't cater anymore, they help our branch as much as possible by helping us with the seniors' Christmas party and helping serve the veterans down at Sunnybrook Hospital. The biggest project they do with the branch is in the Poppy campaign. They take care of the tables at the mall as well as tagging at other stores around town. They prepare food for the cadets and canvas for us, and they serve donuts and hot chocolates to the children that march in our parade November the 11th. The ladies have contributed thousands of dollars to the branch, and without their work and contribution, it is doubtful the branch could have continued to exist. I hope nobody's getting tired yet, and I'm getting close. Dominion Command of the Royal Canadian Legion publishes a monthly magazine, actually there's 10 issues a year, called The Legion. That's just a sample of one of the magazines. It is filled with stories of days gone by, war stories, present-day situations, what the government is doing, and even more what the government is not doing, and much more. It has a section called Last Post, an obituary column. Every name, the name of a veteran that died since the last magazine was published. Not necessarily Legion members, any veteran. Page. Each and every month, the names of veterans and their outfits, where they lived and when they died, appear here. This is why we, war veterans, are becoming an endangered species. There is also a humor section. I'll read you a couple. I enjoyed this story. I hope you save that one for last. A recruit was in a lineup for the compulsory haircut. He had a beautiful head of hair and a pair of spectacular sideburns. He just got seated in the barber chair. The barber says to him, "Son, would you like to keep your sideburns?" "Oh, yes, please," he said. "Great," he said. "Catch them." I can believe that. Young lad, new to the service, medical officer in the MIR. That's the medical inspection room. Didn't know it. Telling a young Cape Breton private to drop his stripes. "What for, sir?" "Short arm inspection." "Sorry, sir, I just arrived. Haven't been issued yet." And for any of you people that travel down south for the winter months, finally, veterans heading south to get a head start in the Gulf season should note the story told by a Canadian who has lived in North Carolina for several years. It is evidently very well known in North Carolina. What is the difference between a Canadian and a canoe? A canoe will tip. Briefly, every year around November the 11th, every Legion in Canada runs a poppy campaign. We don't represented to York County Hospital $127,000 in the last few years. A lot of that has come from the poppy. It's legitimate because a lot of veterans need the hospital. We run a $300,000 nonprofit business in Newmarket, and we spend 98% of it in Newmarket. Our branch membership at present is 227 ordinary members. An ordinary member in the Legion is a member that is military service. We have 350 associate members, 9 honorary members, 86 fraternal members, and 1 special honorary life member. Our ladies' auxiliary membership is approximately 67. I have some pamphlets and booklets that I brought with me. I'm going to spread them out here, and they're all freebies. If you'd like to take them home, that's fine. If you want to leave them here for the caretaker, that's fine too, by me, as long as it's okay by your caretaker. That concludes my talk on the history of the Legion.
Are there any questions?
Go ahead. I was just going to say, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Can you tell us about the medals you're wearing?
I wear very few medals. These are the ones they gave me when they discharged me in 1945. One is the Canadian Volunteer Service Medal, and the other is the 1939-45 star. It just proves that I was in the war. I have no medals or anything beyond it. Beg pardon?
That's not the star.
That's the victory medal. I'm very sorry. And these 2 medals are ones that I got for working at the Legion. This one's a past President's Medal. It's got a bar on it which says I was president more than once. This is the Meritorious Service Medal, the highest award that the Legion presents. And then they gave me a palm leaf to put on it, which means they like me enough to give it to me twice.
Beginning of your speech, you mentioned millions of dollars being paid out here, there, everywhere.
80-some-odd million across Canada.
That's just from your
177 million across Canada. We run a lot of seniors programs across Canada. We don't run anything particular in Newmarket, but there are a lot of seniors apartment buildings owned and operated by Legions across Canada. In youth programs would include the money that we give to baseball, hockey, soccer, etc. Royal Canadian Legion also runs a track and field program with athletes from high schools. And at one time we brought over from England a world-renowned track trainer to help, and sent him across Canada to help train high school coaches. Medical services and equipment is what I talked about, the $127,000 we gave to York County. Charities, I guess our number 1 charity that we give to President Don is the gentleman Al Ravel, who has a special service for looking after dying seniors. Veteran support, which can be anything from buying them food, paying their telephone bill, helping pay off their mortgage, anything that a needy veteran needs. Our payroll, of course, we have 3 full-time employees at the Legion here in Newmarket. We have a couple of part-time employees. Municipal taxes is something that you just can't get away from. They make you pay them. And that, in 1994, across Canada, amounted to $177 million.
Does Legion have a vision for the future as veterans become scarcer?
Well, yes, because we now allow sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters of a veteran be there as a voting member with full rights, as well as military service people, members of the RCMP. We also allow, if you were an associate member and you joined, then your wife would be able to become a member too because she's married to you. And so any associate member, and before this year is over, associate members' children will be allowed to join. No grandchildren yet. Absolutely imperative to widen the base, because while there was a lot of members of the military in the Korean War, which ended in 1953, there hasn't been very much military action other than a few thousand rather than a few million. And so in order to keep the Legion viable, they've opened up the membership a long way. And as veterans and veterans' families disappear, then more and more the accent will be gather money and spend it in the community. Sure.
I'd like to tell you how the Legion helped me. I was in the Navy during the Second World War, and while I was at sea, I took the correspondence courses, and I was able to get my grade 13 algebra and my grade 13 Latin. And the Legion supplied me with all the books, and I sent my lessons in, had them marked and sent back, and of course it was all free of charge.
It was a real good service.
I'd also like to tell you that next week I'm going down to Ottawa, and I hope to pick up my medals, and I'm hoping they're still there after all these years.
Do you know where to go?
Not exactly.
Take my phone number and phone me. I got the information at home. Okay. Jackie.
When you were saying you had like so many members and so many associate members and then one special member, what do you have to do to be that special member? Like what? Or one special life member?
We have one special honorary life member. His name is Ken Metcalf. Ken gave a great deal of his time and operated as branch secretary for a number of years. And he did a real first-class job. And in return for that, the branch requested and got the right to make him a lifetime special honorary member.
So it's just like a real honor, like a special honor.
That's right. A lot of times we'll make an honorary member of police chief.
Yeah.
Like to keep him
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, right.
The mayor, special council member, somebody like that can make an honorary member just because it's
Handy to have.
you can't beat them, join them. You
That's
know?
right.
You mentioned the fees to be a member were $3 at first. What are they now?
At the present time, out of every membership fee that we collect, we send $18.60 to command so that they can look after what happens in Ottawa and what happens in Richmond Street in Toronto. Everything over and above the $18.60 we keep ourselves. What is the charge now, Grace?
Associate right now is $30.
$30, which leaves $11.40 for us and $18.60 for command.
There's a Legion Hall and a Men's Hall in town. What's the difference between the two?
The Legion Hall, the Legion organization is the one that I've been talking about here all night. We're a branch in Newmarket,
we belong to a zone which encompasses Woodbridge, Aurora, Richmond Hill, East Gwillimbury, Bedford, like that. Each zone belongs to a district, of which there are 8 districts in Ontario. Each district is supervised by Ontario. Each and every province answers to Ottawa Command. There's a real change in all of the methods of operation, and everything that is vital to the Legion comes from Ottawa down. And when you speak about the Legion, you're speaking of 1,720 branches across Canada and 500 to 600,000 members. And it's one voice speaking into Ottawa, into the government. The Vets Club in Newmarket is the Vets Club of Newmarket. It has no affiliation with anybody except themselves. That's the basic difference. Incidentally, the majority of members belong to both. I belong to both. I believe you belong to both. Grace, you belong to both.
No, we won't have any.
They won't have any. So, but that is the difference between the Vets organization and the Legion.
If that is it, then I'm going to thank you very much for listening and move a few papers around.
I just wanted to thank you for coming. Thanks very much. And here's a little present. And this is what it looks like. It's something.
It looks like a baby bottle to me, and I don't have a baby.
Thank you very much. I learned so much tonight. I didn't know the Legion did all those things. One thing you forgot, my favorite event was the soapbox serving. Yeah. That's my favorite thing that the Legion does.
You said to me about a half an hour.
Yeah.
I put together a 6-hour talk and whittled it down.
You were